Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for listening in to the Fourth Wave in Therapy. I'm very excited today, and I was just saying off air, it's a selfish kind of excitement because I get to have these wonderful conversations with people. But today's guest with me is Dr. Laurie Hobbs. Now, Laurie is a licensed psychologist based in California with decades of experience in private practice. She blends traditional psychology with energy-based and mind-body approaches, drawing from cognitive behavioural therapy, transpersonal awareness, and a range of intuitive and expressive practices. Now, Laurie is also the host of the podcast Healing Tips from the Heart, and the link is below because I know everyone listening in here will want to listen to that podcast. And she explores intuition and healing from practitioners and guides all around the world. Laurie's work focuses on helping individuals shift from what she calls division consciousness, a win-lose way of seeing the world, to unity consciousness. Heads up, you know what we're going to talk about today, which is a more collaborative and expansive approach to living. Through practical tools and energy practices, she teaches ways to create more harmony, connection, and possibility in both personal and collective life, which I'm so excited, and it's the very reason that we have Laurie here with us today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, I'm beyond thrilled to be talking with you today and sharing with the audience. I think that this topic is very timely, and I'm excited to see what we're going to create together as we talk about it.
Thank you so much, Laurie. And I would love to start with what I just sort of ended with in your bio. And of course, there's a more extensive bio below, everybody. How do you define this division consciousness? And obviously that's compared to the unity consciousness. And I'm glad you said there's probably no more timely, moment in time, whenever someone's listening to this, but certainly sort of post-pandemic and things like that, as to, the way of the Western world in particular. But how do you define division consciousness?
Great question. I think that it's a matter of looking at things that we're not accustomed to looking at. It's that old analogy of a fish in water, that you become used to your own environment, and so you don't often analyze it. But I think that what happened, at least for me, is that I started to feel stronger discontent, a feeling of separation, of isolation, of feeling at odds, even inside of myself. And I'm wondering, where does this come from? And I was curious to see, are other people feeling this? And I think the resounding answer is yes, in so many ways. And so I started to notice the idea of division that isn't from mathematics. We all need division in our world. But I would say a toxic division is really what I'm talking about. The idea that the separation becomes so extreme that we wind up tearing things down that we really want to build, that things that you would hope for become toxic or poisoned, or that you feel that you're moving against your own rhythm, whether it's personal or collective. And so this notion is framed in one of Aesop's fables of the four oxen and the lion. I don't know if you know that one, but it's probably commonly known. But just briefly, the idea is that the lion wants to come to attack the oxen, but they gather together, the oxen, with their tails together, signaling when they're in danger, and their antlers out. And antlers is the wrong word.
I do know what you mean, though. Yes.
Oxen have horns, right?
They do.
Yeah. So they stand together with their tails together, alerting when the lion is coming, and their horns out, and so the lion backs off. But when the oxen start to quarrel, they separate from one another, and in doing so, they leave themselves open to attack. And so the lion's happy because the lion gets to eat, but it's really not serving the collective in a long-term way. And so the opposite of that division is unity. And so, of course, we add in mathematics, but we can have unity that serves more rather than less, that makes us collaborate, that brings the best out in one another. But I'm going to go a step further and just say that this is not a Pollyannish view of reality where you ignore shadow, where you ignore differences, where you ignore what's going on that is painful. To me, in my definition, unity consciousness brings all of it together where nothing is lost, including the lessons learned from division. And it informs a third way of being that is larger than division or coming together in a polarized way of, let's say, good and bad, off and on, and so on. And so to me, that is what unity consciousness is asking us to do, is to take the best and worst of ourselves and create something that serves more than hinders.
Yeah, I'm thinking, coming to mind, the Gestalt way of, the sum of the parts is more than the whole, this kind of idea. If someone's listening in and has just caught that definition and kind of thought, maybe I'm relating a little bit to this, what signs, what did you notice in yourself? Or was it just a sense? Was it an outward behavior that you were noticing? How would someone know that perhaps they were coming or they were feeling more from this division consciousness kind of place of living? How would someone know?
I think it comes down to asking yourself, am I operating out of a fear of lack? What's motivating my choices and decisions? I can be generous in some circumstances, but what makes me get tight or nervous or saying no or being cautious or maybe jaded?
Mm.
Or maybe losing energy in my body or feeling disenfranchised, depressed, cynical, or angry, even, that can be it too, or fearful. All of these things are natural reactions to changes in our environment and ourselves and part of life. But when they become predominant, then you start to have to say, there must be a different way, a better way. This isn't how we're meant to live. We're meant to live with a balance between pulling in and being self-reflective and saying things are wrong, and then building and reaching out and using resources and having a flow of life force energy within us. So it was a combination for me of probably achieving a lot of outer goals that I had set for myself personally and professionally, and also seeing the state of the world going through the pandemic,
Mm.
seeing illness and difficulty, and feeling kind of a weightedness, like things were heavier than they needed to be. And even though things seemed stiff or broken or despairing in the outside world, I didn't want to lose my anchor to my vitality. And so I started to look for answers in myself that I felt were useful and then started to share it with other people. And then they started to use it as well. And we build together. Sometimes collective despair leads to creative solutions.
I like
So,
that. I like that.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I want to go there, but I'm just going to park that one for a minute because I'm sure anyone's listening kind of going, okay, how do we get to that part? But if I can just track back a little bit, because the word I heard, and I guess a couple of words, fear standing out. So operating from perhaps some sort of fear, but fatigue stood out to me in what you just said as well, that the heaviness or even depression, like fatigue, it might be that someone's like, I just feel tired in my life. I'm probably guilty of saying this sometimes too, because you just look at the demands that are happening. But it's like, is that coming from some sort of, yeah, like division or separateness, that kind of place instead? Is that a red flag? I'm really curious about that, the fear and fatigue kind of element. Yeah, can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, identified a couple of common themes when we're really in that division. I win, you lose, you win, I lose, kind of finite resources. The universe doesn't have my back.
Mm.
And I see it related to judgment, control, and expectation. So there's reasons for fatigue and fear that have nothing to do with anything that we're talking about. There's physiological, medical, environmental, and so check out all of that. But if that has been checked out and it still is there, and you're feeling like um, a wall between yourself and the outside world that you can't get through, or no matter how hard you try or relax or rejuvenate, it's still there, that sinking feeling, whether it's fear or fatigue, then start to get curious about some of the other things that are going on for you. It might be a phase of life. It might be a reasonable response to insanity. It might be an invitation to see things differently. And it may be something deep from the past that's coming up that is safe enough now to look at. So I would say look at judgment, control, and expectation as a three-pronged approach to getting more curious about what that fatigue is about, the fear, or whatever it is that the person's responding to. The thing that makes you feel alone, isolated, hopeless, and that there really is no point sometimes in trying.
Mm.
It's like you've lost your spark. I don't know if that answers your question.
Absolutely. And I think you're right. We always sort of look at that hopelessness state as, yeah, being a real clue to something a bit deeper that might be there. And I know because we share a common world in the EFT tapping kind of research and practice area, I know that you embrace energy psychology as part of this. But why do you think, lots of our practitioners listening in, or, anyone into mindset or, kind of reframing and kind of positive ways of trying to view the world, why do you think sometimes that's perhaps not enough to shift what we're talking about? That we can read all the books, we can, try all the, self-help practices, and I can understand sometimes people end up with a sense of dissatisfaction or frustration that they try all the things from a mindset point of view and even maybe behavioral, but it's not enough. Why do you think we need and almost like another prong and perhaps something that embraces the body or energy?
Great question. And I know you know that I'm a big enthusiast for this. And it was hard won because that was the world I was brought up in, the materialist and cognitive behavioral world with a little bit of psychodynamic kind of in the secret background. And a lot of my people teaching me didn't really believe in emotion. So I was an intuitive, so I felt like radically separated from the mainstream and knew that I could do more to help my clients than I was being taught. So when I discovered first Reiki and then energy psychology practices, including tapping, and then moving on to other things like the Blue Diamond and logo synthesis, Bankston method, and so on, it opened up a whole nother world for me and for my clients. And I think the reason why is because we tend to believe that through sheer willpower, through manifestation, and through desire, that that is sufficient to change our ways. And it does work, but not for things that are deeply ingrained in other aspects of our being that are more invisible, like the influence of society or what we've been programmed to believe from an early age that really settles into the subconscious mind in a hypnotic induction. And you can't use the mechanisms that we've talked about, the mind and emotion, to get at and unleash in a permanent way and reconfigure those deeper anchors. And they go without notice sometimes. You don't even know you're under the influence of these programs. But the cool thing is that when you do use energy or somatic practices like energy tapping with meridians or using chakras or other energy systems, it's like the exact key that you need to unlock these hidden passages. And even without awareness, it works. And it works quickly and deeply. And you really create a whole new landscape for understanding the world in a way that opens doors that it's really quite remarkable and hard to believe. And therefore, many people are skeptical, including myself. I was brought up to, as a scientist practitioner, to believe that if it's too easy, and too fast and too simple, it's probably snake oil.
Mm.
And to be skeptical and doubting. But thankfully, we have people like you creating research showing that not only what the clinicians and clients know that this works, but that we have data to support it as well, and an abundance of data with more all the time. So I guess I would say to people, don't take my word for it. Try it yourself. Find a trusted other who understands this work. It needs to be done gently with respect for where you are in your personal life in that moment so that you don't bring up so much resistance and fear to something new, but enough curiosity to challenge yourself to be a little bit different than you were when you started. And the more you build on it, the better it is. And the proof is in the pudding when you start to live differently and those around you sense a change and say, something's different about you. I don't know what it is, but tell me more. I want some of that for myself.
Yeah, and I certainly even remember my own siblings back in the day with my early journey in this kind of work. They're like, how come you have different conversations with our parents than what we do? What's happened? I'm like, oh, I didn't notice, but obviously the result
Yes.
of change work. Laurie, I am curious though, because we share a very similar kind of traditional training, and certainly that was mine. I didn't have psychodynamic hiding in the background. I probably had Gestalt and transactional analysis that was sort of just there with the mainstream gold standard approaches. But what was it that made you curious, or when did you go looking? You mentioned in there that you wanted to be of best service for your clients, and I'm guessing that might have driven you looking. But what was it for you where you kind of went, maybe the tools that I've got available to me are not enough, there might be something else out there?
I love that question. And really, the turning point for me was when I was in my early 30s and had my first child, and who was had health problems. And so the search did not begin as a magnanimous sharing with my clients because I didn't quite know where to go with academically or as a professional. But I knew that the medical model was only taking her health so far. So that's when I started to learn Reiki, energy healing techniques, and about homeopathy. I used myself as a guinea pig and went to different practitioners, craniosacral and so on. And had them work on me first to see what it was like if I could trust the practitioner and the approach and try to understand it. It was deeply confusing to my brain to understand something like homeopathy, where you're going to like this level of, where there's really nothing there but water and information. Like, what? But I saw that things worked and they started to work with her. And that's when I started to say, oh my, there's so much more here. Plus, my intuitive senses really came online even stronger. I could no longer deny them on a daily, moment to moment basis once I became pregnant and had my daughter. They were already there, but I was pushing them away. So I knew to be honest with myself and to be stable, I had to start incorporating invisible unseen forces and know the difference between what was helpful and what wasn't. And so I used myself as a guinea pig. And only after many years of that did I slowly start to just put a toe in the water with my clients about my intuitive abilities, saying, do you mind if I share this with you? It's coming intuitively. And my clients would say, if it's good for me, I don't care if it's your dead grandma or from the newspaper or a dream you had, just tell me what I need to know. So I got more confident. And then I discovered energy psychology. And then that opened the door to everything else. It was the combination of the tapping techniques, of how effective they were, and the science behind them, and the fact that we were allowed to get continuing ed as a psychologist from the APA for teaching this material, that I said, I have landed where I need to be.
Mm. And I will just give a shout out to our colleagues at ACEP, the Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology, for absolutely having EFT recognised in energy psychology as part of the CEUs with the APA. So I'm so
Yes.
glad they drive that. And, we absolutely are grateful for that because it means, yeah, psychologists, other kind of licensed professionals can access that professional development and claim it. So shout out to our friends at ACEP. Laurie, I'm thinking of my own journey parallel. It's very similar in that, same kind of thing. It was my sister who was my guinea pig because she lived with me at the time. And I'm like, I've learnt this new technique. Do you have a problem? And she would let me try things, which is fabulous. She's in the teaching world. But if someone's listening in and they're relating or they're kind of, curious, but they are feeling stuck, perhaps, they've got some sense of division consciousness that they can identify. And the whole idea of unity consciousness is obviously incredibly appealing. And I'm so glad you mentioned, the ox and the lion, because I've heard similar things about the animal kingdom, that they will come together to protect, even what you would think are dissimilar animal kind of, groupings will protect each other if they need to against a common threat, that type of thing.
Hmm.
If someone is listening and they're like they feel stuck, is there anything they could do after listening? Is there anything that could be self-applied in this moment, whether it's to the fear or fatigue or even scarcity mindset, anything like that?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. I think that the first thing is to open your mind to the possibility that things are not fixed, finite, or lacking, that we actually have access to the infinite, whether that's the biology of yourself or a spiritual belief or the universe or whatever it is, to open yourself to the possibility that there might be things that you can do and solutions that are here that you're just not seeing or having access to in the moment. And then find out in your own body or in your own awareness what it is you want to focus on. So don't take everything in the world and don't take anything that's too massive or too deep, especially by yourself, but something that's like a mild to moderate problem or discomfort that you're having. And get curious about it. Is it, how do you know it's there? Is it in your body? Is it a mind state? Is it a belief? Is it something someone told you? Hone in on one aspect of how you know it's coming to you. Feel it and breathe through it so that you're not overwhelmed. And then imagine that the solution that you need, even though you don't know what it is, has already arrived. Because we're always in the here and now. Past, present, and future is an illusion of our 3D world. Everything already exists, including the solution that you're going to seek. And then do a little bit of time travel and invite your future self with that wisdom, or your angels or guides or ancestors or whoever it is that loves you, and come back into this moment and give you just a hint. Nothing big, something subtle that you can take for your next step. Even if it's not here already and you can't hone in on what it is, set it as your intention that it can come in a conversation or in a dream or in an aha moment that happens next month or someone who comes into your life suddenly or something you remember. And then let it go. Take another breath and let it go. Because you have to hold this duality of I want and I already have. I am here and I'm already receiving. It's already solved and I've moved on.
Mm.
So that grasping, but also the letting go. It's so important to have both of those.
I
So
love
that would be my quick
that.
and dirty little,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I was doing it at the same time that you were mentioning it. I'm like, oh, I've got plenty of things I could pick from here. I love that because I love myself even visiting my future self 20 years down the track. So just as a visualization, sometimes if there's a problem to ask about and how did I get through this, that kind of thing. And it's such a lovely way, yeah, to bring back. But I love that concept of holding what is true now, but also the solution and, letting them go. So that's brilliant, everyone. I hope you have a look at the transcript if you want those words again. But yeah, that's really good. Not down and dirty at all, Laurie. Absolutely inspirational. So that's fantastic. Thank you. I am curious, and as we're starting to wind up, what you've noticed, perhaps, how you want to answer this. But do you think the division consciousness, or what we've been talking about, do you think that is specific to certain cultures or upbringing? And do you see differences in perhaps, different sectors in the world, do you think that at a cultural level, Western countries are more, we might say, individualistic if we're doing research versus collectivist? Do you think there's something in that, or is this becoming just worldwide?
Both and so I'm always careful to say with the word Western, and I don't have a good alternative term that I've found, but we have a rich history in the Western world of the indigenous and native cultures that are not colonialized. So maybe it's the non-colonialized Western world that I'm referring to at the moment. Though not all, but some are based not on hierarchy necessarily as the only way and division consciousness and win-lose, but on relationship and collectivism.
Mm,
And the idea that everyone has something to give and to receive, that everyone is of value, and that we have different moments and times when we can plug in to scarcity, to abundance, to need, to satisfaction, and all the rest. And so maybe there is more division in general on the planet right now, regardless of those other philosophies or ways of seeing the world. Astrologers talk about that, Pisces to Aquarius, and, that there's all kinds of changes going on in terms of where we are in the universe and our solar system moving through all of these things. So I think that we are at an age of shift, and we haven't gotten there yet, but we're seeing what's falling apart and
mm.
what's not yet built. So, regardless of the philosophy, the culture, the time, the religion, the personal belief structure, these tools are useful because we all face polarization. Everybody comes to a point of feeling, especially when they're afraid, separation, disturbance, lack, lack of imagination and creativity. It's part and parcel of our humanness.
Mm.
And so, whatever we can do to break through to that from community, from healthy community, because sometimes we can't muster it ourselves, then we're all helping one another.
Absolutely. Laurie, if you wanted one thing for people to take away from listening in today, what would that be?
Start where you are. Don't worry about, but I need to read another book, or I didn't quite catch that. Let me look back on the transcript. Check in with where you are right now. That is your best teacher for what it is that you are going through, what it is that your next step might be, and also what treasures you bring. Because no matter what you're going through, there's always things to be grateful for that you've learned, usually hard won lessons, and some sort of an internal wisdom or a connection to something that's true for yourself. So I would say just start where you are and have that be enough.
That's
Because that's where the point of power always is, and transformation and change is in the here and now.
Yeah, and I was talking to a graduate I supervised recently, and we were talking about the body being your house and your home, and yeah, like the foundation is you. So perfect. Laurie, how can people continue listening to your work? Tell us a little bit about how they can find you.
Great. So if you'd like to hear a podcast that I have done, you can go to hopshealingtips.com. That's HOPS, healingtips.com. And all of the 70 plus interviews with guests are there. And if you'd like to know more about me personally, you can go to my website, drlorihops.com, drlorihops.com. And I'm sure that you'll have that information in the program notes as well.
We do. Thank you so much. Laurie, it's been an absolute joy to connect with you like this. I know we've met each other a few times in person
Yeah.
at different conferences, but just to go a little bit deeper and yeah, hear your work, I think such a gift to the world. And I hope everyone does listen into Healing Tips from the Heart and learns a little bit more about your work. I think this is absolutely phenomenal. And there's no greater time to kind of, really come back to self and then connect out to others as well. So thank you so much for sharing all of this wisdom today.
My pleasure. And it's such a treat to work with you and see you as well and know you and be born at the same time.
True, true. Thanks so much, everyone, and we hope that you listen in again to another episode. So we'll see you again uh, down the track.